Now my site is built, ready to launch, and is looking rather sweet if I say so myself. However, there's one thing I haven't done yet, and this is incredibly important for every website you launch, and that is set up security on the site itself. So for this, we're going to be using today's video sponsor, which is Solid Security. Now, as always, there's no opinions given. I'm simply going to demonstrate how this all works, and then you can make a more informed decision for yourself. But first of all, Solid Security used to be known as iThemes Security. Now, this is a plugin that I've been using for probably 10 plus years, so it's something that I'm very, very familiar with. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Pro version and some of the key features that brings with it over the free version, and some of the reasons why you may want to consider upgrading to the Pro version if you've already tested out or you use Solid WP or Solid Security, the free version. Let's start from the beginning. I've installed Solid Security Pro, I've activated my license, and that's basically it. This is exactly where you're going to be when you install this. And this is pretty much the same whether you try the free version or, in this example, the Pro or Premium version. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the new entry on the left-hand side called Security. We'll click to open that up, and this is going to take us through into a step-by-step wizard that asks us some questions and lets us kind of hit the ground running with most of the basic settings in place. Then we'll take a look at how we can tweak and configure and just some of the additional options you have when you install it and got it set up. So what we've got first of all is choosing the type of site that we have. So for this example, we're going to say this is a brochure site to promote a business. And I'm also going to say this is my own site and not a client site, but the option's there should you want to use it. Then we can move on to enabling two-factor authentication, which I would always recommend that you do. We'll set this to say yes. Now, Solid Security Pro comes with several different ways in which you can access your website. You can use two-factor authentication, you can hide the login, you can even use passkeys to give you easy access using different types of devices and so on. And then you can choose how those devices are handled, all manner of different things to make sure that accessing your site is as secure as potentially possible. So with that in place, let's go and say next. Do we want to enforce a password policy for these users? Absolutely. Password policy is a great way of making sure that people are using very strong passwords, that common passwords are not allowed, and compromised passwords are also not allowed. Again, enhancing the security you have available to you. So yes, we'll say we want that option. We'll choose next. Now we can choose to whitelist our current IP address, which I would recommend. So we'll say authorize that. And if you want to, you can set up the IP detection. I'm going to go with the recommended setting, but there are additional options inside there if you want to use them. Let's choose next. Now we can set up some basic features for the login security, firewall, and site check. So we're going to say we want to have two-factor authentication, which we said already, and we want to use passwordless login. Now with any of these, if you want more information on how they work, you can simply click on the little question mark. That will open up the additional documentation, and then you can search and find whatever you're looking for to give you more information about how to use a particular feature. Now, speaking of logging in, you can see we've got the trusted devices option. So this will allow you to identify devices that users are using to log in, like your mobile phone, computer, tablet, those kinds of things. And you can have additional security measures applied to unknown devices. So it's a great way of adding another layer of protection. We'll say we want to use that option. We'll click next. And now we can set up the user groups. Now your user groups are basically your administrator, your editors, those types of things. And you can use the default or you can customize this if you want to. Now at any point you can come back and make changes to every setting that we set up during this initial sort of setup wizard. So for this example, we'll say default user groups. And this is now going to show all the different user groups we have, shows the parameters that have been set and configured, which again we can tweak should we want to. And you can see at the moment we're looking at administrators. So things like we may want to enable password age for administrators as well. Good practice if you do. We'll say yes, and we're going to skip the two-factor onboarding because, well, as an admin, you're probably quite comfortable with that side of things. Once you've set everything up that you where you want, you can click on next, and then you can go through the next stage and so on. And again, you can see we can enable or disable trusted devices on a user role level as well. So we have lots of control. Then if you want to, you can come in and you can edit for the editors, the authors, contributors, and so on. So set this up whatever you use. So if you were only admin in the site yourself, just set the admins up and you can forget everything else. Again, we'll choose next. Now we can set up how notifications are handled. So if anybody tries to access the site, there's any issues, we can set up who gets notified. For this, you're going to probably want to drop in your email address and then choose whether this goes to all administrators or, in this example, just to me as the main admin. We'll complete our setup and we've got the basics all set up for us. And there you go. After a moment or two, it tells us everything that's been set up. And if we want to enhance our security, we can go through to the settings, or if we want to take a look at our dashboard, we can do that. Let's start with our dashboard. Now you can see our dashboard gives us an overview of our site, checking for vulnerabilities and notifying any updates that are required, any threats that are being blocked by our firewall, and so on. You'll also notice that we've got the powered by PatchStack vulnerable software option. This is one of the benefits that you have when you're using the pro version, the paid version. You then have access to PatchStack, which will monitor and notify if there's any vulnerabilities, any plugins, themes, WordPress core, and so on that are vulnerable. And then when they release a V patch for that, which is a virtual patch, you'll have that available as part of your solid security setup. So this is a great way of working. Just bear in mind that's a pro only feature. What we can do is you can view your vulnerabilities. There's lots of different options. And the nice thing about the pro version is this is an active sort of dashboard that will update in real time. So that's pretty cool to know. The free version doesn't give you that. Okay, so once we've got that in place, let's say we want to configure our firewall just to make sure that that's in place. That now takes us over into our settings section under firewall, and you can see we can configure exactly how our firewall operates. Now this is the default set of settings based upon what we did right back at the beginning, but we can tweak a lot of these. Now I'm not going to go through everything, just know that you can expand things out and you can make changes. So anywhere you see this arrow, you can click and there's additional options inside here. So for example, on the ban users, you can use the hackrepair.com ban list. This is known IP addresses that are trying to access websites. You can automatically have those IP addresses blocked on your website. Even if you don't understand what the heck I'm talking about, enable that function because it gives you a little bit of peace of mind that these are being collected in the background and they're being applied to your site as well. So you can see there's lots of options, including firewall rules, local brute force. So for example, if for any reason, and please tell me you haven't done this, but if anybody tries to use the admin username, they will automatically get blocked and no problem. For any reason you have admin set up, please create a new account, a new admin account, and delete that old one with the admin username. Really don't want that on there. You can also enable capture inside here. So if you have comments enabled on your website, you're probably going to want to enable this as well, just to have that in place on your comment section. So easy, set everything up, save it once you're finished with it, and you are good to go. So now our firewall is all configured the way that we want. Let's take a quick look at the login security and some of the additional features that Pro brings with it. So if we come in here, you can see two-factor is all set up. We also have passwordless login. So let's open this up and you can see we have more options inside here. So do you want to allow things like a magic link or use passkeys? Again, going back to those devices and trusted devices and so on, you can use passkeys as part of this with the Pro version. You then got things like per user availability, so you can set things up for biometrics like face and touch ID, Windows Hello. There's lots of different options to give you access to your site. And then you can choose exactly how this works. Do you want your passkey user verification to be preferred or to be required? So if you don't want other methods of logging in, you may want to set this to be required. Then you have privilege escalation. So you may have something like a problem with your website and you need your hosting company to have access to this, where you can give them temporary access to various different parts of your site, and then you can remove that afterwards, or you can set it to expire as you want to. If we open up our trusted devices, you can see there's a few more options to give added security. So restricting capabilities and session hijacking protection. So again, if you want to enable those, they are there for you. But what you can see is the Pro version brings with it a lot of extra functionality to improve not only accessing the site, but also managing that access and dealing with anybody that's trying to access your site. They shouldn't be. You kind of get the idea. While we're inside the login security section, we've got the password requirements. If we open this up, this allows us to set the password age. In other words, once any password goes past this period of time, 120 days in this example, a new password will be required before you can log in. So again, if you want to make extra little bit of security, you can set that up and use that inside you and then set how long a password is actually valid for. Now, if we take a look in the site change section, there's a few options inside here that I think we want to take a look at. First of all is the file change. Let's enable this. And what this does is this will monitor for any changes to files on your website. Now, you can choose to exclude files, file types, and or folders. So if you've got things you know are not, you don't need to worry about things like log files and things like that. They will be ignored. And you can see we've got a bunch of ignored files inside here, which you can edit and update should you want to. And we can also choose files and folders that will be ignored as well. So you don't need to cover everything. There's going to be certain folders that nothing's ever going to be put in there that causes a problem, where you can exclude those as well. But I would recommend you put the file change on. It's useful. You've also got version management, which is a pro feature, and this protects your site for outdated software that's not updated quickly enough. So you can see we can choose WordPress core, what plugins, themes, and what kind of protection you want to enable. So it's good to see we've got some kind of version management inside here as well. And again, like I say, it's all added into that protection. Now we've got Solid Security Pro all set up and configured. Check this video out next. It's going to show you how you can get even more security in place on your WordPress websites with minimal effort.